This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. Genie, it's a pleasure to have you here. How you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's good. I can tell it's going to be a good one. We were kind of having some conversations before we hit record, and I already saw a flavor of what to expect. So with that said, I think I do have the chance to ask you, because of the work that you do you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Yes.
Please tell me more.
My father is from Colombia, South America. He came to the U.S. Back in the 1960s, and then went back to Colombia, and he has been an entrepreneur his entire life. So he was always telling me, don't work for anybody else if you don't work for yourself. So a great role model I had there.
Yeah. I mean, it was just driven into you as early as possible. So then it's interesting because we were talking just before we hit record, that part of your journey involves being involved in the military, right? So now I'm trying to reconcile both of these facts. One, that there was a coming of age that was thoroughly encouraged to explore freedom and an opportunity wherever you can find it. Was the military one of the first opportunities you could find?
Yes. I think right after high school, like many young professionals, trying to find a way of how I was going to grow and pay for college. And a family member, the day after I graduated from high school, said to me, so what are your plans? Have you considered the military? And that's how it came about. I
see. Excuse me. So then what ended up being the push for you to, because I imagine as we can see, you didn't stay there, right? So you have this upbringing where your parents encouraged you, like, if you can find a way, be an entrepreneur, work for yourself. And then you knew you needed resources to be able to get to a certain level. So you went into the military and you paid your dues, as they say. Now, was it a long career, or did you decide the chance you could get that you had seen enough and decided to go into finding something new to do?
I always went into the military now with the idea of staying in, but to really get a GI Bill to go to college. And I was able to get my bachelor's and part of my master's while I was serving. And I kind of used that as a launch to kind of figure out what I wanted to do after the military. So after the military, I ended up getting my master's and then pursuing 15 years in the energy industry as an energy trader.
Wow. Okay. It's not often we get to talk to somebody in the energy industry. And this is interesting because you go in to learn. That's exactly what you do. You get all the degrees, right? All of them. And then you step into one of America's biggest exports in general, right? The idea, or at least biggest businesses, is the energy business. And now you're running a company that's doing development and cultural, organization development, things of that nature. Try to walk me through that. What happened? How did you get from working in energy, which most people, once they're in there, they stay there. It's comfortable. So I've got to know what made you step away from that.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. So I want to go back to where it started, because I think it's going to frame this
please
a little bit as I evolved through telling you the journey. So I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Went back to Colombia when I was 2 years old. and came back when I was 15. My father had come to the U.S., went back to Colombia to buy his business. And as you all know, back in the 80s, just the political and economic instability of the country. So my father ended up sending me to the United States. I remember being sent on a Greyhound bus from LA to Valdosta, Georgia when I was 15 years old. I went to 3 different high schools and ended up joining the military. After that, after joining the military for a couple of years, for active and for inactive, I ended up entering the energy industry, and actually ended up marrying somebody who was also retired from the military. Then we adopted a beautiful, beautiful little boy back in 2010. So as I was, on the high of my career, me as an individual ended up kind of reassessing what it meant to be be content at work, but also to be available for my family. So that was the launch pad for me. And also I had a leader that was probably not the best leader that I could have. So that was an easy decision for me. Was I came home one day and I just said, I'm going to quit. And my husband was like, say, what? You're going to what? You're making 6 figures and you're just going to quit? I'm like, yes, I'm going to quit. And he says, well, let's just do part-time, just do part-time and see how you feel. I'm like, okay. I did that. And then 3 days later, I came home. I said, well, so I just quit my job and I'm going to start a business. So that's where it all started. And my father was my biggest pillar also, from a point of view of, yes, you can do this. Not even 2 steps back to getting impulse. So that's kind of how this whole thing started. It was just a decision that I felt that I needed to make to grow and provide for my family.
Interesting. I love all of that, and the dynamic that there's a leader that you were not willing to follow, which is an important aspect of any work that we're going to do in life. And as somebody who served as well, I can imagine you had a certain definition of leadership that you knew was a bare minimum, and that wasn't happening there. So I have a lot of respect for the fact that that's the decision you made, because I've been there myself many a time where I can't even believe this person is the leader, but what are you going to do? Some people get ahead in life somehow. But I think this is also a perfect moment to transition over to letting Jason chime in, because like you, he shares a career in military and leadership and what that means, and just the opportunities that military can offer. I mean, I think he has a family history. So I want to turn it over to him and let him sort of add to what's happening here in the story before we go further.
Yeah. Well, first of all, obviously I have a special place in my heart having other veterans on. So for obvious reasons. And what's interesting on that leadership topic is, I spent 23 years in the military, and it wasn't all good leaders all the time either. Right. But the thing about it is, when you get used to really that structured good leadership, that camaraderie and all that, and then all of a sudden the next day it's gone, because that's how quick it happens, right? Because you exit from the military and it's gone. It's just history, right? You're literally pull the plug out of the wall and it ends that day. It's a very weird feeling. And then you come into another organization, if that's what you choose to do, which is not what I did, but that's what the majority do, is they come into an organization and they instantly notice it's not the same, because we get a little institutionalized how the military is, and we just think that it's going to be the same once we cross over. And whether it's corporate, working for another business, whatever the case may be, We think, oh, great. Well, I'm just going to unplug here and plug here. All good, right? And then it's not. Right? Because you're used to something totally different. The camaraderie, you're used to all these different things. And you can't find that anywhere else in the world unless you create it yourself. And that's exactly what you've done. You've created it yourself. That's what I did. I created it myself because I knew the grass was not going to be greener on the other side. For sure. So, good on you for making that leap of, because no matter what, leader is a title. Respect is actually earned. So there's a lot of people in the world that have the title of leader, right? But that doesn't mean they have the title that gives them the respect. And that's two totally different things. And, it's like a lot of people said in the military, you don't have to respect me, but you got to respect my rank. It's the worst saying ever. It's awful, right? We should want everybody to respect us just as basic human beings and people, and never put that barrier in front as if somehow you're better than somebody else. We all have the same amount of quarts of blood, right? We all put the same pants on every day, same shirt on, same shirts on every day. And that's important to remember. Keep that humility, no matter where you are. So there you go.
And so coming back to the narrative, so what makes this the most interesting to me is that you not only saw that and did your best to compromise with your husband and not leave immediately, but the decision was made a long time ago. And when the time was finally right, you built a company that solves that very issue. Now, talk to me about that. Was that on purpose? Was that the original intention, or did you somehow just find yourself doing that?
That was the original intent. I spent a lot of years doing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I really wanted to create an environment where people feel valued and respected. And I wanted to help people work better together. Did that happen overnight? No, because I know what I wanted to do, but it just took a great team that I have today for that mission, vision, and dream to materialize. And that's what we have today. But for me, it was really important to create a place where people felt valued and respected. And I don't compromise with that.
Yeah, I respect that. I can see that. There's a clear vision that you had, and you knew you needed the right team. And most people, like I'll see, even including myself, aren't always willing to go out there and admit that they need a team, right? Some people, especially some entrepreneurs who are so hard-headed, they think that they're the ones, again, coming back to bad leadership, right? It's a clear sign of bad leadership, thinking you're the one that's about to make it all happen. So for me, what was it like to find the team that you needed? How did you have a criteria? Because I imagine this goes into the work that you do, and being able to look at an organization's current team and how they're all supposed to be playing nice together. I imagine sometimes that involves replacing people. Sometimes that involves including people. So for you yourself, you had to figure out the process. What was that like?
So we have been in business since 2014, and it has been a journey. It didn't happen overnight. It took us a while to get there. But I think for the most part is people understanding that I always have their back. To me, that's not negotiable. That means that I expect respect within the team, but also the same thing from our customers. And we have some really high standards for that. So getting to that point of having this great team, when we hire anybody in the company to come and work for us, I give them an opportunity to interview our employees as part of the interview process, because I want to make sure that is a mutual match, that they want to work with us, but we also want to work with them. And but I'll tell you what, it has been one of the most difficult things that I have done as a leader, is to try to get that team. But really, I think creating the psychological safety in our work environment where they can disagree with me. They can call me on it. I have team members where they have told me, Jean, what you're saying today, what you're doing today doesn't align with the mission of helping people work better together. You might want to rethink that. That's powerful, because most leaders won't sit there and say, oh, okay, tell me more. I'm like, tell me more. But most leaders, especially if you have that attitude that I'm in charge and I'm the boss, they'll be like, oh, you know what? You disrespected me. You need to go. But for our team, I tell you what, it has been the psychological safety that we have created in the work environment, and allowing my team to have input and to be part of the process of hiring people has been the most powerful thing for me.
Wow.
Input breeds innovation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. One of the last jobs I ever had, the mantra for that CEO was, the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. No, he who has the gold makes the rules. I knew all I needed to know about that company the minute I heard that. That's exactly, you have no idea. I could go on for days on that. And it's sad, because the rest of the team, including the COO of that company, were the exact people that company needed to make it succeed. But from the very top, we had somebody who was a CEO who was originally a board member investor, the primary investor. And through a bad series of decisions, somehow someone who shouldn't have been in a leadership role found themselves in a leadership role, instead of just, you're really good at moving money around, stay there, and I imagine, are these the kinds of conversations you have with organizations about, like, you don't need to be here?
I have had several conversations with people who are just not a good fit for a company. They might be a good fit for somebody else. And there's one thing that people sometimes don't think about is the resumes, right? That you can embellish the resume, but at the end of the day, people are going to find out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, it's like you have to perform. If you don't perform, then the year's not a good fit for the company. But I'll tell you, so there's something else that is very important for us as a company, is that I wanted to create a place where people felt valued and respected, and where there was psychological safety. The other piece of the company is that I always tell the team is that I didn't create TIVC to be stinking rich. I'm not interested in being, however you want to define being rich, right? Or happy, for me is being content. And I don't have, and I can say it loud and very proud, I don't aspire to be a 100-person company. I don't aspire to be a $20 million company, okay? Because for me, it's about following our mission and doing what we are supposed to do to make an impact on people's lives at work. If that happens, if as a result of doing our work, we get to be the 20-something, 100, that's fine. But I'm not looking for that. That's not the motivation of our business. The motivation of the business is to help people work better together and to create a better work environment for people, that where they want to come to work, where they feel that they are engaged in their psychological safety. So that's what we love to do.
Yeah. No, I love it. You've got a triple, double bottom line, and anytime it turns into a single bottom line that is more aligned with the dollar, it's a clear sign that you've fallen off track of the mission. And I love that you have that. It's hard to run a business that has a purpose. It really is, because it's so easy to fall into focusing on revenue as a metric, which you need for operational cash flow, but that's not the end in itself. It's a means, right? And I just love the sense of purpose, because if we go back to the beginning of your story, you said you had redefined what happiness meant to you just before you left that job. You said, oh, no, I know what's going to make me happy, because I'm making plenty of money, at least like what I need. And I'm not even bearing any of the risk as a business owner, right? So like I really have it made. All I have to do is show up. And then you looked at leadership and said, you know what, this is the exact problem I need to solve. Mm-hmm. And you went out and here you are, and you're living proof of it. So TIVC, as you call it. So where can people connect with you? Are you active on a social channel, or is it better to go on a website?
We are active in social media. So you can follow us by going to TI Verbatim Consulting, www.tiverbatimconsulting.com. That's our website. We actually just revamped it, so we're really excited with our missions and exactly what we love to do. And then people can, find me in social media under Jean Ibañez-Payne, and or email me at info@tiverbatim.com.
Okay, right on. And now there's like two more questions I have to ask, even though I have a million others, but I know in the interest of time we have to ask that. So I want to turn it over to Jason one more time before I start closing things out.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in attaching the business to a cause, right? The minute you attach it to the cause, the money becomes irrelevant. Because you put so much good into the world, the money just takes care of itself, right? And, the more good you do, and if you don't put this expectation on revenue, which you see so many entrepreneurs and young business owners, well, they ain't young business owners, seasoned business owners, they focus so much on revenue and not about leaving a few things, leaving a footprint, and really just affecting people's lives in the best way possible. When you do those things in every single interaction that you have, right, in just life, period, right, the universe has a way of doing its own thing, right? So it happens. And I'm not a mindset guy and all that stuff. I'm not trying to get into that. But what I'm saying is things take care of themselves when we do the right thing. They just do, right? Because people see that. And when people see it, they see that you actually care. And it's not about, hey, that deposit's, it's a day late, right? That kind of crap, right? It's like, oh, sorry, screwed up there, right? No, instead of that approach, it's everything is about approach, right? And most people don't do things ill-willed, right? So there again, we give grace. Grace is an important thing in life too. So you're doing great work. You're very aligned with my companies and the way we do things and how we operate. And not that I would expect anything different from another veteran. So for
right
sure.
On. Well, with that said, the two remaining questions, and I'm getting in gear for this because I'm always excited about this. Number one, if you could go back, knowing what you know now, to the Gene that was sitting there pondering, wow, do I really want to be here right now? Looking at that leader, and you're like, oh, if I could throw a bagel, it's okay. If I could throw a bagel at the back of the head of that damn person, to that moment specifically, if you could go back to that moment, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself?
I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. This has been one of the toughest journeys that I have done in my entire life, but it has been so fulfilling.
Wow.
Not being able to see my son with anything because mommy was at work. I have been able to pick him up from the school bus, go to football games. I just been able to build a team where I can be myself and I can be authentic and I can be vulnerable. And the same thing with my team. I'm doing something that with my team that is so powerful and that is helping and that is making an impact. So to me, that is success. So if I have to look back of the legacy of TIVC of Jean Payne, I couldn't have done it with the help of an amazing husband, beautiful son, beautiful team. And so, no, I would not do anything different. But if I didn't tell you that the first years, I shed a lot of tears and I cry a lot. And I often ask myself, was this the right decision? Having to sell, I know, all like my dream house, leave our church, take money out of 401k and all that stuff. I would be lying if I sat here and told you that it was not hard, but it has paid off. And you see that I don't look back and say, well, the revenue and all that stuff, to me, that's irrelevant. I'm doing something that I love to do, and I have built a team that is amazing. So, no, I wouldn't.
I love it. I mean, this just goes to the point Jason made a while back, a couple episodes ago. There hasn't been a single entrepreneur who has said they wish something would have happened differently. They might be like, oh, don't be scared, things of that nature. But yeah, I love that. And what I loved most about the way you began that answer, what I got from it immediately was like, you are a person who truly relishes the journey. And that's a lesson I myself need to really learn, because my reaction to obstacles is not the same. I'm just tell you right now. But I truly have learned from just the way you responded to things, because I also was put on a Greyhound when I was 14 years old. So I know that feeling. In fact, my wallet got stolen in El Paso with the money that I was sent away with. So there's a lot of things that you said that I was like, wow, I can really relate to that. And there's just so many valuable lessons in entrepreneurship driven with purpose in this conversation. So I'm really curious about your answer to this next question. And I'm just going to check in with Jason before we roll it out. What do you think?
Let's roll it out.
All right. So for 1,000,000 points, right? Let the brass sing. If you could have invited anybody to this conversation today to listen to what we talked about, maybe even contribute, who would you have loved to have had here and why?
So there's actually there are two people who I would invite. I have her name is Brittany Chang. She is the CEO of a company here in the Virginia area, and she's an amazing CEO with an amazing story. But also there's a person that works with me, one of my colleagues. She is Veronica Lawrence, and one of the female military veterans that achieved the highest rank in the Navy as a woman, one off. And she has a fantastic story. She's not an entrepreneur, but she sure supports the TIVC mission like she was the owner. So, two people.
Oh, wow.
Hard choice.
No, I love it. And I'm sure Jason has his thoughts on that. So I appreciate you sharing that. I love how personal those choices were, which just goes to show how you approach life. It really does come from this matters. And I'm living based on a vision, a mission, a purpose. And these are all personal to me. So again, it just makes sense. So now those are my closing thoughts. I'll turn it over to Jason.
Yeah, you know what? Life is so short. And my son said something to me yesterday. He said, "Dad, we're not here on this earth," because he watches a lot of science shows and stuff, right? So he sees the life cycle of animals and all this stuff, and he goes, "You know what, Dad? You got to drive life like you stole it." It's like, that's an interesting perspective, son. But he's right. You really you got to get up every day and drive life like you stole it, right? And just keep putting one foot in front of the next. and keep moving all the time. Never stop. So, and that's what you're doing. And you're making a difference in people's lives. And, you know, at the end of the day, when we look back or look in the mirror every night when we go to sleep, as long as we can say, I helped somebody today, to me, that's all that matters. And it could have been the simplest thing. It could have been buying the guy behind you or gal behind you a cup of coffee in the Starbucks line. It could have been many, many things, right? So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking just a little slice of your day to come spend a little slice with our day. And, you know, keep doing good things. And I look forward to watching what you do next.
Well, thank you for having me here today. Thank you for the great questions. You know, you're often, as a business owner, you don't take time to reflect, to celebrate success. And actually, that's one of the things that my team will say, Jean, take time to celebrate success. Let's just reflect. And so today you have done that for me, to sit here and hear your kind and wonderful words have made me just kind of sit here and just reflect and say, wow, you know, we're doing something that we love to do.
Yeah.
We're doing something that's making a difference. Let's just press on. So thank you for all your questions, and I appreciate you having us today.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Today.
So much my pleasure. It was a great conversation, and I'm glad that it was a recorded one, because now many will benefit from the journey that you've lived. So thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, cheers. Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.